Hey, good Sunday evening, everyone. This is State Representative Brad Halbrook coming to you at 5 o'clock for our weekly edition of our Sunday Night Live. This is the Truth, Logic, Common Sense Conservative Campfire Network. And again, we are brought to you tonight by The Dam is About to Bust Wide Open. Again, thank you for taking a few minutes out of your time, your afternoon to join us. And we've got Representative Blaine Wilhour going to be with us. And Representative Chris Miller will be with us. And I don't know if we'll have anybody else to join, but at least we're going to have these two fine gentlemen with us. Again, I just want to remind you of some stuff that we've got going on in the district this week. We've got 3 pizza and petition and politics parties across the district. We will be in Tower Hill at Jimmy D's Tuesday night. We will be, I'm just going to check my notes to make sure I'm telling you right. We'll be in Sullivan at the VFW Wednesday night, the 23rd, and then Crawford's in Moweaqua on Thursday night, the 24th. All those events start at from 6 to 8. Come early, enjoy some good pizza, meet the local candidates, sign petitions, and get ready for the season. We'll entertain some questions and look forward to having you there. So with that, I'm going to try this with Representative Blaine Wilhour. Blaine, are you there?
Hey, I'm here, Brad. Thanks.
Hey, we can hear you loud and clear. And I'm going to try to bring on Rep Miller, and there he is. Hey, Chris, good to see you. I'm going to try some wizardry here. Yeah, we're just going to play all kinds of interesting things here with this new restream thing that we've got, and kind of figure out maybe what is the best way to do things here. So with that, guys, I just wanted to give our viewers a kind of a little look back into this past week, kind of the events that happened. This was the first week in 5 or 6 we were back to Springfield after weeks of cancellations. Blaine, any thoughts there?
Yeah, well, I think everybody knows by now that we made a determination last week. We made this determination a long time ago, but we've followed through on it specifically that we're no longer going to participate in things in Springfield that don't make sense, that don't pass the smell test, don't pass the critical thinking test. Critical thought is something that's kind of been lost in our society these days, especially when you go to Springfield. So, the mask mandate there is all theater. It completely is. It is in most instances, or almost all instances across the United States and across the world. And, people are done with it. We're done with doing things just because they say that we need to do them. People need to stand up. I've said that, common sense doesn't prevail until common people demand it. And it's time for common people to demand it. And that's what we're doing.
Exactly.
And we're willing to take the bullets and the arrows on it because somebody's got to. And sometimes that's what leadership's about.
Right. Exactly. And that's been the comments that I've received is thanks for standing up and doing the right thing. Chris, what are you seeing? What was your thoughts on this past week?
Well, I know that eventually when you push good people far enough, they finally brace up and they push back. And I know that at least the people in my district have been done with this show for a long time. And, most anybody down this way that has a lick of common sense knows that the mask is strictly a placebo to make some leftists feel better about themselves because they want it to feel like they're doing something. And we all know that that they've lost in the courts, they've lost in public opinion, they've lost in the science, and they just can't give it up. And so I know when we got together last Tuesday and we decided that we were going to stand up for the families, we were going to stand up, for the kids, we're going to stand up for the teachers, we're going to stand up for our communities and let them know that we were with them. And you do that by making a decision, sticking with it, taking the arrows, doing what is necessary to move the mantle up the hill.
Exactly.
Brad, Chris pointed it out on some of the kids. It's too often not thought about or really gone over. These masks are actually a hindrance to kids and their ability to learn, their ability to communicate. They're a hindrance to the teachers on their ability to be the mask police and to try to, I talked about it in a press conference that I've got a first grade kid just learning to read and struggled with phonics a little bit, and you just can't do that. You can't put teachers in that situation. And the bottom line is we've all talked to so many teachers and administrators and students across all over the state of Illinois. And here's what it comes down to. If you just strip everything away, strip away the threats from the governor, strip away the coercion on the money and everything else, and just ask these professionals that have dedicated their lives to doing this, what would you do? What is the best thing for the kids? And it's a home run almost every time. Get rid of these masks, get rid of these mandates, get back to normal. We can handle this. We want to handle this, and we want to do what's best for the kids. So just strip away the politics and the threats and everything else. It's way past time.
Exactly. Let me ask you guys, over the past few days, I've gotten comments about following the rules. What's your thoughts about, Chris, what about when somebody says, well, hey, just follow the rules? Do you have any thoughts about that? How to respond to that?
Well, I think that the only thing that keeps evil from prevailing is for good people to do nothing. And I think that, well, here's one thing that, this whole thing didn't pass the smell test for me ever since the beginning. And I tried to look at this whole mess historically, statistically, mathematically, and look at all these different avenues that common sense people that are willing to look at math, that are willing to look at the data, and this whole COVID response never passed the smell test for me, mainly because when you look at the data, because they act like that there's a huge spike in the death rate in the United States of America, and the fact is the death rate for the last 10 years from 2012 to now is pretty well static. From then, in fact, the death rate in 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 was fractionally higher then than it has been the last 3 years. And so when you look at that, common sense would lead you to think that maybe there's some sensationalizing going on, maybe there's some political science, maybe there's some theater, possibly, because the Dems want to continue this narrative because they want to be able to cheat in the next election also.
Exactly. Chris, or I'm sorry, Blaine, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, Brad, as much as we hated to, we basically followed the rule on this for 2 years. I mean, we made it a point to make them literally tell us every day to put them on, but we did follow the rules. But there comes a point where, when the hypocrisy on the situation is so out of control, and the governor, he's been given so many exit ramps of late on this, where he could have got out of this and still declared his victory or whatever. And he's made it abundantly clear that he's tied to this thing and he's not giving up on it. And that's a scary situation when you get into a situation where a elected politician has so much of his personal and political credibility wrapped up in the illusion that he's right on this. He's got so much wrapped on it, and it's of his own doing. Right. He could have used a dose of humility on this stuff a long time ago and said that, hey, maybe masking 5-year-olds isn't the best idea, because right. The WHO came out on that. Nations all across the world haven't been doing it since 2020, but he hasn't done it. And when you get in that situation and you're facing, forces of, that are so dug in at some point you gotta push back up against the rules when the rules don't make sense, and you're not seeing anything happen going through what they say is the proper channels. They put these we're pushing the limits for a reason here. We're pushing the limits because the end result is going to be a situation that the people of Illinois, their best interest is going to be
Right.
going to at the forefront, which it hasn't been for
Right.
two. It's the politics have been to the forefront.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, so let me bring this comment or question up on the screen. I don't know if you gentlemen can see that or not, but the question is, besides you five, are there others willing to have your backs and stand with you? Whichever one of them want to take that and kind of talk about Representative Calkins, kind of how he kicked this off on Wednesday, and kind of maybe what transpired Wednesday and Thursday, and how we did have others standing with us.
Yeah. Well, when you take strong stands, you got to be prepared to explain them, and you got to be prepared to to get people to stand behind you. I think that by and large, everybody agrees with us. The what's going on the floor of the House and in schools and everything is ridiculous and is hypocritical and is everything else. But we were happy. This is another instance where the block of legislators, us five people down here willing to do the tough things and push the issues, can actually help move the narrative for the entire state of Illinois. So we took a tough stand on this. We explained it, and we ended up walking out of there with almost all 45 Republican legislators, which is a victory for common sense, and it should give hope to the people of Illinois. But don't get us wrong. We're still bringing the heat, and we're still bringing the accountability on this stuff. But overall, I was really happy with the response that we got from our fellow legislators.
Exactly. Chris, Blaine sits right down in the very front row, right next to the well of the House. You and I sit near the back, probably by design to keep us away from the action maybe a little bit. What was your view back there from where we sat, kind of how things went down Wednesday and Thursday, and your thoughts about others that were standing with us?
Well, I know that it's always great to see when we can stand together with all of our colleagues, because all of our colleagues were with us in spirit behind this whole thing. And I thought that I always enjoy Blaine sitting down there in the front, because he's he's the first one to get teed up almost all the time. And they did it again the other day, because he was the first one to take a shot. And this is supposed to be the schoolroom of ideas and debates and coming to the best decision. And so they just turned Blaine's mic off because they didn't like what he was saying. And so I thought, well, there went that friendly discourse out the window. And so, but the whole thing about it is, it says in the Proverbs that only through pride comes contention. And, when they lost in the court, they lost in JCAR, the courts there. And I think it was Sangamon County. They said that these people are pure evil. This whole mask mandate is pure evil on the kids. And even my daughter the other day said, Dad, I haven't had a normal, she's a senior in high school, haven't had a normal year basically that I can remember. And I mean, what a tragedy that is. And to take these once in a lifetime opportunities, you never get a chance to go back and repeat your high school years. They're over. And it's really a tragedy that we politicize this whole response to COVID-19.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That is exactly right. Well, and just to the couple of things I want to kind of highlight here is, there were others that stood with us. The motion to remove was 9 total people. And the only reason it wasn't 10 is Representative Calkins felt bad that day. For some reason, he had a little illness going on, and he wasn't able to be with us. And I know he was trying to join us here this evening. I know he wanted to be on. He was, I think, having a little technical difficulty, so he's not able to join us, but we'll get him on here right away. We're all trying this new streaming platform. We're trying to get up to speed on it and learn it and make sure we got it figured out. So it's a little bit of kind of growing pains there, learning curve for us, but we're getting it. But there were others that stood with us. And when they removed us from the chamber, I believe it was all but one of the Republican members went out, and he was our floor leader that remained. And then momentarily after we were out, then he called for a caucus, and then we went and caucused for about 45 minutes or an hour before we came back in. Any other thoughts, gentlemen, on that before we kind of move on to the next thought?
No, I'd just like to give a tip of the hat to our colleagues and when we stood in solidarity to press this issue.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thought too is it was kind of bizarre, you know, on the motion was debatable, and Blaine wanted to debate the issue, and evidently the sponsor of the motion, she chose that she didn't want to engage in that conversation. How do you make a motion and not engage in the conversation, Blaine? I just find that really bizarre. I'm sure you thought the same.
Yeah, I definitely was. I was a little bit taken aback by it. But when you think about it, when you don't have the facts, when you don't have the reality or anything else on your side, you know, and you got the votes to throw us out, why would you want to debate it? Why would you want to debate something that if you get into a debate, you're going to lose? It's hard to debate when you don't have facts. And I just thought it was kind of, you know, but I really just wanted to ask her about her mask and the efficacy of the particular mask that she was wearing, since you know, she is kicking us out because we're a health threat. She was wearing a cloth mask, and you know, even the CDC, which is, you know, not exactly the tip of the spear on these issues, have said that cloth mask is ineffective. So it's but I just thought it was really emblematic of the last 2 years. We don't want to debate anything, you know. If you don't agree with us, you're a knuckle dragging Neanderthal that's killing people, and you know.
Well, and to make it up as you go. They make it up as you go, even that.
You know, we enforce the rules one day, we don't enforce it the next. We enforce one here, not one there. You know, there was a couple of Democrats up there in that front row that weren't wearing masks either because they think it's ridiculous. But you know, unsurprisingly, they weren't included on the, you know, kick your butt out of here docket. So, you know, they're just not tough enough. Like I said on the floor, not tough enough to debate, not tough enough to stand up to the bureaucracy, and certainly not tough enough to stand up to big boy.
Yeah, exactly right. So, gentlemen, that was this past week. Really no floor action other than booting 9 of us out Thursday, I think it was, and then really did a couple of resolutions, and that was kind of the extent, other than a lot of committee action. And for our viewers out there, the committees are all still 100% remote. I mean, we're all gathered up in Springfield, and we're sitting in our respective offices on a computer screen doing committees. I just find that continuation of that to be just bizarre. I think we've got to get,
especially when we can go out and eat, drink, and be merry, and you know, everything else together. That's part of the whole hypocrisy of the whole situation, part of the ridiculous, the theatrics, and that's the stuff that we're done with.
Exactly. Gentlemen, what do we see? We're going back on Tuesday for another 4 days. I think we're scheduled every week, Tuesday to Friday, all the way till Good Friday, April the 8th. What do you guys, what's on the horizon this week, do you think, that we're going to see when we go back? What kind of action?
Holding the line, Brad.
What's that?
On the horizon. That's on the horizon for me.
Holding the line?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Standing strong. Has to be. Yeah. So
well, I've yet to see them bring forward any good ideas, so it'd be a real shock if they had something good that they want to push forward that was actually going to help the citizens of Illinois to live more productive lives. It just doesn't seem to be in their narrative.
Yeah. So here we are. 2 weeks to flatten the curve has turned into 2 years of tyranny. We've not debated any of the governor's mitigation efforts. We've not had that in committee. We've not had subject matter hearings. We've not had any discussion like that I'm aware of, unless you guys know something that I'm not aware of.
No, and that's it. Yeah. And so important, Brad, because you know, oversight on the executive branch and everything else is, and on the agencies, is such an important part of what the General Assembly is supposed to do, and we have done absolutely none of that. I mean, we haven't even tried to do a show on any of that, you know,
Right.
which is unbelievable. And I think that Representative Batnick put it really well when we were debating this getting thrown off. We have now in the House of Representatives had two separate votes on two different occasions on kicking members out for not complying with a rule that I believe is unenforceable and makes absolutely no sense. But we haven't had a single vote on any of the governor's mitigations. We haven't had a single vote on any of the governor's consecutive emergency orders, which were supposed to expire in 30 days, and they've gone on for 2 years. And we haven't had a single committee hearing meeting where we've held Dr. Ezike or any of these people accountable for the data or anything else that they're supposed to show. So it's a complete, you know, the General Assembly has abandoned their duty. They're more interested in, you know, in the circus and the theatrics and everything else than they are in actually doing their job. And it's ridiculous.
Right, exactly. So a week and a half ago, the Sangamon County Circuit Court ruled that the masking was it was evil, right? Chris, you talked about that,
Yeah.
and tossed it out. And of course, the governor appealed it immediately. That didn't take very many hours, and that was all tossed out. And then the governor has submitted it to the Supreme Court. I've not heard an update on what's happening with that. It's probably just laying there right at this very point. But so, you know, this idea of due process was violated for these youngsters in our school and our parents. How is what's going on in the General Assembly with masking the members of the General Assembly? Has there been any due process rights violated there, guys? What's your thoughts about that? Is that the same or is this different?
Well, I feel like that they violated Blaine severely there. I'm looking forward to see if anything's going to come of that.
I think that's a really interesting and really compelling argument. I mean, you know, I think that we can look at what they did in the school systems. The TROs that were successful there were basically, I mean, there was several things at play, but what everything was based around was a government agency or even a governor himself can't put forth a rule that violates existing law, you know, and that's what the State Board of Education was trying to do, and the court system had nothing to do with that. They smacked that down on several occasions, saying that you can't put forth a rule that violates an existing law. So I think that we can make a very compelling argument that the House of Representatives can't put forth a rule on masking that supersedes the existing law on the Department of Public Health Act. The Department of Public Health Act says that if you're going to quarantine somebody, and exclusion is a form of quarantine, and masks are a form of modified quarantine as decided by judges all across the state of Illinois, including Judge Grishow, and upheld by the appellate court, that both of those things are true. And House Rule 51.5 is trying to hide behind decorum, but it's clearly a rule based on a public health risk. So we're gonna see. We are pressing this issue. I've got an attorney. We've got a court hearing in Bond County at 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning, the morning that we go before we go back up to Springfield, where we're going to hear this case. You know, are they violating our due process rights by you know, kicking us out of the General Assembly based on a medical issue without any due process procedure. I think it's a very compelling argument. And the bottom line is we're going on the offense on this stuff. We've got to go on the offense against a government bureaucratic class that's completely out of control. And I don't think
Right.
that we can leave any stone unturned in these issues. So yes, I am suing the Speaker of the House. And he does have a notice to appear in Bond County, Illinois, Tuesday morning at 9:00. We'll see if they come down or not. But one way or another, we are going to be in front of a judge, talking about this exact thing.
Well, I think that's important, and I think that's the way we're going to get to the bottom of this matter. And of course, here over the last 3-4 days, we've heard, well, it's not about due process. It's not about the IDPH rule. It's about decorum. Well, I'm not really sure that a dress code and a face mask, which is, like you mentioned earlier, has been determined to be kind of a medical device, a modified form of quarantine. I don't know how, I guess you could, it's a stretch, right? I mean, you can do anything you want to do and say, but it would be a stretch to say, hey, we can make the rules for face mask as a matter of decorum.
And we don't challenge these things, Brad. They
Right.
just get into a situation where they think they can do whatever they want and violate anything they want. And the bottom line is the precedent that we're setting today is the precedent that we're going to have to put up with in the future, and we're
Right.
done putting up with things that don't make sense. So I'm not crazy about going into the litigation side of this. I'm a little bit apprehensive about that side of it, but it's just come to that point where these people need to be stood up to, and the rule of law needs to have its day. And
Right.
on Tuesday morning it's going to, and we'll see how it goes.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
So
we've seen how that they got caught in their own mousetrap when they weren't even following their own rules. And then we had another, I don't know, all we needed was an elephant. We'd had a circus there when they decided they were going to come back and take our temperatures and pretend like they took our temperatures. It would be more like it. But I mean, they have a history when they're put in a corner. They make it up as they go. They change the rules. They make things that were illegal, legal, and so on and so forth. And I don't know about you, but I've had enough of it. And I'm like Blaine and the rest of it. It's time to go on the offense. It's time to hold their feet to the fire. The great citizens in Illinois are done with this stuff, and so am I.
yeah, exactly.
And a lot
Yeah.
of times, when you when you really push back on these people, you find out that they kind of overplayed their hand a little bit, and they're not really smart on how they deal with these things. So I think the key is to keep up the pressure. We keep up the pressure, liberty prevails.
Right, exactly. Guys, we've been into this about 29 minutes exactly here. Any closing thoughts here? We kind of covered the bases until the next event happens. Is any closing thoughts there, Chris? And then we'll go to Blaine and close her out here this evening.
Well, it's great to have this opportunity to have a discussion freely about these issues. Just from the response I got from my friends and neighbors, I firmly believe that we're on the right side of this. And so you make sure you're right and you go ahead, and we're right and the Dems are wrong. And so we're going to keep pressing the issue and moving the mantle up the hill. And hey, I don't know about you, but freedom is an important thing to me, and I'm going to live free.
Right, exactly. Blaine, closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'll echo some of the stuff Chris said. I've been almost surprised by the amount of support that I've had in my district from people that I never would have thought about on this, because people are fed up, and they do see the things are getting out of control, and the government, the governor, and the bureaucratic class are just doing whatever they want, and they're running roughshod over everybody. And at this point in time, everybody can see that they're harming people to perpetuate a political narrative. And now's the time for people to stand up. We've gone all over this state, imploring people,
Right.
putting pressure on people, sometimes duly, sometimes maybe a little too much pressure on people to stand up. And it's and I think that it's time for some reflection on that from people of the General Assembly, that it's time for us to get out of our comfort zone and stand up and
Right.
do things and fight back. Because like I said, it's so important. The precedent that we set today is what our kids are going to have to put up with in the future. And I don't want them to be putting up with things that defy logic and common sense and critical thought, and actually do harm and not good. So we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep on the offense, and the pressure is coming. We're not backing down on this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Gentlemen, thank you. Again, this has been the Truth, Logic, Common Sense Conservative Campfire Network. I appreciate you guys. This is the unvarnished truth, and we want people to know that we're fighting for them in Springfield. We're standing up against the tyranny as best we can, hoping that others will join us. And so, again, I did not say this in the beginning, but I invited all the other reps that were part of the motion to be tossed out. And they've all, just kind of had other commitments. I know it's Sunday afternoon, but we'll try to get them on here as the spring goes along. And so you can get to see them, and we can share each other's feeds across this platform. And again, I appreciate you guys all joining us here tonight to share in this conversation that we've had, and look forward to many, many more conversations. With that, guys, I'm going to put up our closing rollout video. Until we meet again, thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.